Going on Facebook.
All right. You got to mute yourself in your video, I think, in order to do it. And I think you got to highlight me. Oh, there we go. We're on. Hello, sweet friends. Let's see. Scott, if you can highlight me for a second. I don't know how to do that. Or make me a co-host. Thanks. Thank you. Hello, Facebook. Hey! Hello. All right. I want to get right to it tonight because I have a lot to cover, and I'd like to cover it all with you tonight. It's an important subject. The subject is joy. We talked about joy as a remedial course for anxiety, and it's been a part of our rabbinic tradition for as far back as we've been writing. We've recorded these understandings, and I want to highlight some of them for you. So, before I do, I wanted to tell you, our friend Rabbi Menachem Creditor, he comes all the time. He's with UJA, and he is just a wonderful, wonderful human being. So he and 20 rabbis are going to Ukraine, to the Polish border there, and they will be offering spiritual and I imagine any help that they can muster. And so if you want to support this effort, I'm going to put the link in the chat here so that you can do that. And please support their efforts. 20 rabbis, UJA, they're teaming up with JDC, and there it is. And they'll be helping the people of Ukraine. So please take a look at that. If you want it on Facebook, I'll try to get it on Facebook later. So this is the idea. And Ted, I'm hoping that you'll speak a little bit on this tonight, because I always have fun speaking with you. And you and I are going to be teaching in the future. And so if you have anything to add, just raise your hand. The function of the neshama, of the soul, is to uncompromisingly guard its joy. That's it. That's the class right there. The chief function of the soul is to uncompromisingly care for the joy that belongs to you, that is inherently yours. We think of joy as something that is fostered or garnered or fabricated outside of the self. You're affected by something that is joyful, and you catch that joy. But joy is not a disease that we catch. It's not a muscle that we exercise. It is that which is beneath everything else. It is your essential core. And as you peel away more of the layers of that which you cake on the joy, on your essential core, joy is revealed. And mostly what I'm going to talk about tonight is just how that is referenced symbolically within our literature. We are, according to many sages, the Kohanim. When you speak of the priest, or the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, it's really representative of the self. And we've been over the last few parshiot discussing the idea of a mishkan, the building of a temple, the building of a tabernacle, right? And the tabernacle is the mind. So the temple, right, is indicative of the mind, and the thought, right, or the one who governs the thought, is the Kohen Gadol. That's your coherent governance. And there's a man, he lived in last century, 20th century, political journalist and author, professor, world peace advocate. His name is Norman Cousins. Perhaps you've heard of him. Cousins did a research on the biochemistry of human emotions, and what he long believed were the key to human beings' success in fighting illness. And it was a belief that he maintained as he battled in 1964 an onset of crippling connective tissue disease. And he was told by the experts at his rehabilitation clinic that he had 1 in 500 chance. That's a 1 chance in 500 of recovery. And so Cousins took the matter into his own hands. He developed his own recovery program. He took massive intravenous doses of vitamin C. He had self-induced bouts of laughter. He wanted to cure himself with orange juice and joy. That was it. It's the Anita Bryant cure too. I'm just teasing. That was a reference to the 80s, the 70s, who knows. So he did this by, he had videos made of, remember the show Candid Camera, right? And other various comic films. And, positivity was not new to this guy. He was really quite funny. He'd always been an optimist, and he was known for his kindness and his robust, love of life. He said, and I'm going to quote him, "I made the joyous discovery that 10 minutes of genuine belly laughter." He reminds me of Dr. Hammerschlag. I'm sure you've seen him as a guest here. He's a very good friend of my parents and mine. He lived, Oliver Sholem, in Arizona. He was very good friends with Patch Adams. These are doctors of laughter. They're actual medical doctors, and they operate in laughter. And the pun is, of course, there for you to enjoy. But here, this is what he continues. So this is Norman Cousins. He says, he made a discovery that 10 minutes of genuine belly laughter had an anesthetic effect that would give me, he's speaking of himself, at least 2 hours of pain-free sleep. He said when the pain-killing effect of the laughter wore off, he would just simply switch on the motion picture projector again. This is before, they were streaming. And not infrequently, it would lead to another pain-free interval of sleep. And he documented all this in his book that he wrote in 1979. And this is the plight of a person who effectively fabricates joy from outside of himself, yet also reawakens the joy within himself. Because what was happening? He was laughing, right? Belly laughter. And then he would have periods of real peace, pain-free peace. The pain-free peace is also joy. When you laugh, that laughter is, it's like Shviras HaKelim. It breaks down all of the klipot, all of the shells that cover your essential core, which will always be joy. And when it breaks apart, that which is the armor, that which is caked around your joy, then joy is revealed. And that joy is not the giddy joy that you're sold on television, right? Or the Coca-Cola commercials, as I say quite often. It is the joy that is contentment. It is the smile that is expressed on your nervous system. And that kind of joy is the joy that we awaken and reawaken through many forms of spiritual practice. Laughter is one of them. So before I go on, continue, are there any questions, any comments, any agreements or disagreements so far? Are you still with me, everyone, on Zoom? Yes?
I have a comment.
Who's that?
Myra.
Myra. Hi, Myra.
Hi. When I worked in Houston and I used to have to go on the 610 loop, I used to force myself to laugh in the car. I just like, ha, 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 ha. And then I would just start laughing. I said, people must think I'm crazy sitting in here in the car laughing hysterically. But I
Not
used
at
to force
all.
myself to laugh.
Not at all.
Loud, loud.
How many of you by show of hands have ever done laughter yoga? Nearly everyone here, Myra. We're all crazy like you. We're all crazy, right? How many of you did the laughter yoga? I remember I used to do this in the 80s at Kripalu, where you would lay down on the belly of someone else, right? And you'd all be stretched out, and everyone would be laying on someone else's belly, you know, like with the head on the belly. And we would make like a little train of sorts of laughter. And as the person laughed, like a real belly, right? Even Lila's laughing when I do it. It's so contagious. It really worked on Lila. So it's so contagious, right? That when you feel the vibration of the belly of your friend, your neighbor, you can't help but just break down. And what this does, right, is it's like an anesthetic. I mean, it literally allows intervals. It allows for intervals of real peace. And so that I want you to get that the laughter is not the joy, right? It is instead the key that unlocks that innate joy that is within you. The laughter is an expression of joy. Laughter is truly just a release of what's the word I'm looking for? Of tension. So when Myra's driving in the car, right, and she forces herself to laugh, right? She forces herself to laugh. What she's doing is she's fabricating the feeling within her of a cathartic release of nothing more than breath, right? That's what it is. It's when someone tells you a joke and they tell it really well, right? The master joke tellers will do what? They will build up tension in you. You're like on the edge of your seat, like, oh, come on, give it to me already. Come on, just give me the punchline, right? Sherry knows what I'm talking about. So when that buildup is finally released, it's a relief. You have alleviated the tension within the body. So the joy is not the laughter. The joy is not even the release. It is the tension, right, leaving the body and the after effects of the tension being released. That's what we call joy, right? Okay. Eileen, yeah.
The release is actually biologically, it releases what we call oxytocin in our body, which is the love and the joy hormone that we're God-given in our bodies, that was created with us when we were created.
That hormone, that's the new black. That's the hormone you want.
Right. I wanted to say that I learned that a long time ago in my profession. At the end of the day, sometimes I am just so secondary traumatized that what I do normally during the week usually is sit and watch sitcoms for an hour or two.
That's why everyone does. That's why all those sitcoms are on. You have the news, right? We give you the news, all the molestations and the bank robberies and the crimes and the shootings, and then we give you Seinfeld for 2 hours or whoever, the sitcom of choice. Do you think that's not designed, with this in mind? It's because that hormone, right? That hormone, it belongs to everyone. And I'm going to go deeper because I don't think it's just the release of some enzyme in the body or some hormone in the body. It has to be linked to something much deeper, right? So if we're really going to uncover the spiritual matter within the makeup of the human being, that spiritual matter, if you boil it down to its simplest element, it will be joy beneath everything else, right? And it also corresponds to hormones and enzymes and endorphins, right? So thank you for that, my beautiful social worker friend. And we're putting the homework choir together soon, so we're going to be putting you back to work. All right, let's see here. Everything's coming back. So can I continue? Yeah? You want to learn a little bit with me? All right. So the guru asks, why are holy people holy Because they are full of holes. No sadness, no suffering sticks to them. Nothing destroys that natural joy that exists within them. That is the role of the Kohen. That is the role of the priest. That is your role. That is the role that you stand porter at the doorway to the mind, right? That is your Mishkan. This is your tabernacle. You stand at the porter at the doorway of that Mishkan, right? And you only allow in that which addresses the natural joy that exists within you. Nothing else should be made to feel welcome. You can experience other thoughts. You know, where there's mind, there's all kinds of thoughts. There's judgment, there's fear, there's apprehension, there's doubt. Yet, those are not thoughts that the Kohen Gadol welcomes in to the inner sanctum of the Mishkan. They are allowed on the courtyard, right? But then dismissed and released. There's a parable. You want to read it with me a little bit? I'll screen share. Let's see here. Screen share. Do you remember 2 years ago when I didn't know how to do this? Or 2 weeks ago? Really? Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, let's see here. All right. Does anyone feel like reading? Who wants to read? Sherry. Can you unmute Sherry? Scott? Okay, Mama.
You want to do the Hebrew first?
Unless you want to, yeah. Sefer Vayikra. This is the book that we're starting this week. It's not the portion, but it's the book. Vayomer Hashem Moshe Emor. This is from Emor, Parshas Emor. Emor el HaKohanim b'nei Aaron v'yamarta aleim lenefesh lo yitama ba'amav. Go ahead.
Say to the priests, sons of Aaron, say to them, he must not become Sol Tameh among his people.
And when you hear the word he, of course it's he and she, and of course his is his and her. Go ahead, continue.
In the Midrash, we read a parable of the king who told his chef, I beg you, don't ever look at a dead body so you don't contaminate my palace. From Tanhuma Emor 1. The chef's task is to cater the king's festivities and gaiety. So the king warns him, since your job is to arrange my festivities and to add to my joy, make sure not to cause unhappiness. For looking upon the dead is the opposite of joy.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about what that means. Looking upon the dead. This is where that comes from, the old... the Christian story of the Good Samaritan is where there was a Kohen that couldn't help someone because he can't touch anything in a cemetery, right? So we're understood for this. The priests are understood globally that the Jewish priest does not contact the dead, and I want to get to why that's so important here. So continue on. Go ahead and read this. Vayomer Hashem Moshe Emor LaKohanim b'nei Aaron v'yamarta lehem lenefesh lo yitama ba'amav. Did we read this above? Yes, we did, right? Okay, let's read it the way it is translated here. Sherry?
And the Lord said to Moses, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say to them, there shall be none defiled for the dead among his people.
So we're going to read the Medrash Tanchuma that we just referenced. Emor LaKohanim v'yamarta lehem. Go ahead, you can read the English just to be safe. Safe.
The Midrash says, what's it like? There was a chef, party planner, with free access to, in and out of the palace, who was often in the king's presence. The king told him, I decree upon you that you never look upon the face of a corpse all your life, because you are in and out of my presence, and you see my face, and I don't want you to make my palace tumah. So it was that God decreed upon the Kohanim who entered into the temple not to become tuma to the dead. That's why the pasuk says, the
L'nefesh lo
nefesh
yitama ba'amav.
let him
L'nefesh lo
not
yitama
become
ba'amav. Right? Good.
let him not become soul tuma among his people.
Beautiful, Sherry. That was beautiful. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about this for a moment here. I see that you're engaged, Ted. So this is I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the Chassidus of what we just read. The Meir Shaloch makes 3 points about this. Meir Shaloch is Rabbi Mordechai Yosef of Izbeka, the Ishbitzer Rebbe. He says that the function of the Kohen is to bring down the joy of God and to generate joyful sentiments here. One is to draw down that joy that is the heavenly joy, and then to generate joyful thoughts and sentiments from here. So at the same time that we are accessing the joy that surrounds, we're also referring to the joy that is within. The idea of not looking upon the face of the dead is that that means. And you really have to get this. There was a beautiful rabbi, and I forgot her name, but she translated tuma to be tame, not as impurity. That's not a really good translation of the word. She said it's disembodied death residue. That's what it is. That, you know, when you come home from a funeral, how many of you have come home from a Jewish funeral, and what's waiting at the door? A thing of water, right? To do what? To wash your hands, so that you should bring none of that disembodied death residue into your home. Why would we care? I mean, you just go to the bathroom, do a little hand washing, wash with soap. But it's the ritual, right, that symbolizes what about death? Death is a finality. Death is the end. There is no reopening. There is no reconciling. There is no reinvigorating. Once you call something dead, whether it is a relationship, whether it is a hope, whether it is a venture, business, personal, otherwise, that which you label as dead can never be reopened. You've given up. And because as a people we never give up, we should never look upon anything as dead. Nothing. I was looking at mitzvah, these beautiful mitzvah cards that Rabbi Goldie Milgram gave us. We use them often for our students. And these are the cards here. And, sometimes I play with the kids. I say, pick a card, any card, so they can pick a mitzvah. And the mitzvah for today was teshuvah. And the way that she translates teshuvah is so beautiful. Like teshuvah, just by a show of hands, how many of you have heard this word before, right? Teshuvah. Yes? So what does teshuvah mean? Let's get some responses maybe in the chat. And I'll tell you how she translates it. Teshuvah, for many people, means repentance. It also means to return or to center. That's my favorite, is coming back to your center, coming back to the maypole of spirituality. But she translates it as thus: to heal relationships, she says. Work through issues with all whom you've hurt, when safe to do so, also with those who have hurt you. Only then can wholeness and holiness return to your relationships. Realign yourself with mitzvah-centered living to heal your Jewish neshama. And the idea that teshuvah is an interactive process, right? That we reinvigorate a relationship, is to say that relationship is not dead, that nothing ever dies. So I hope that you are all hearing me, because every one of us, and I'm looking at all of you, including my dear friends who are on this Zoom call, who have often given up on friendships or family relationships or certain people. This indication is not to. That when we say don't look upon anything as dead, don't look upon the face of death, that you can't look into another's face and see death. the end of possibility. Right? It's a powerful, powerful understanding. So that was the second. Then the third is that he says that the soul, the person must not become soul tame. So what does it mean, soul tame? Tame, as we just mentioned, was something that associated with death, that the soul has died, right? That the soul has damaged, has any kind of damage. This is important in that the Kohen, to be chosen to be a priest, historically, in our narrative, is that priest's job is to fix the behavior and the act of every Jew. Hey, want to come in and learn? I'm on Facebook Live. Want to say hello? Or did you need to make a copy? Want to say a little kokera? All right. So, 16 out of 16. Wow, look at that. Kokera got 100 on his test today. Very nice. Look at that. Good job. Okay. We'll celebrate in a little bit. I love you. So, the function of the Kohen is, thank you for humoring me. The function of the Kohen is that they fix the sort of the direction, or even more the directive of the Jew, that they make the act, any act performed, an act of appeasement before God. So the Kohen is commanded to take even that which you label as, how could I have done such a thing? I can never repair that. It's irreparable. They bring that act back to the realm of repair. That's tikkun. That's tikkun olam, right? But it's on a very local level. And so death is the opposite of all of that. That there's no finality with the Kohen. So the function of the Kohen mirrors also the function of higher thought, in that the Torah commands the priest not to become tameh ever, not that your thoughts should never be so final, so ultimate that they dismiss any chance of repair. And this is important to know and to fix in the coherent in the dialogue of the mind. So if the Kohen is appointed to take charge and fix anything and everything, and not to allow for finality or for you to give up, right? The death, it holds no possibility of repair. So the capacity for straightening the things that are distorted, the Kohen has this unique ability to do this. And then nothing is beyond repair, and nothing is rejected, and no one is rejected. And so your thoughts, right, the Kohen, i.e. the Kohen, have the ability to fix any mistake made by the klei maaser, by the actions. And this is an unlimited potential. And when you touch this potential, you understand joy. So let me just unpack that again with you. If everything that you think or say or do has the option to be brought to a higher good, that, the understanding of that and the realization of that is what we call contentment and joy. You never have to spend a sleepless night again. How does that make you feel? Do you get that? If you get that, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, I'll explain it again. Good. Good. Let me just see everyone for a second. Make sure everyone's on board. Yes? Are you with me? Eileen, you don't get it? I can't see Eileen. Eileen, you're very fuzzy. No, you don't get it? All right, let me explain it again. Unless Ted. You want to explain it, Ted? Unmute yourself.
Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody.
Hey.
I'm wondering, Mark, what do you think I can add to the conversation?
I don't know. I just I got bored of hearing myself talk, and
Okay.
Eileen wanted me to repeat everything that I've been saying. So or at least in a way that she might understand. So I thought if she heard it from you, it might be easier.
Start with a belly laugh. It's interesting because as you were talking about the role of the priests as being to bring joy, I was thinking of the tasks of the priests to officiate at the sacrifices, which would be a kind of a gruesome thing. It would be a very difficult thing to lay your hand on a goat and, have it slaughtered before you and burn the various parts on the altar and all this stuff. And, how do we see joy in that?
That's a good. I love that you bring this up. This is why we have to keep learning together, you and I. So let's go over this idea of what happened in that scenario. So someone brings an offering, right? They bring an offering to the Mishkan. Usually they bring an offering if they did something they felt terrible about, right? What did we just say? That the role of joy, and Eileen, I hope you're with us because I only see like your emoji. You're there? Okay, good. So generally we bring an offering when we have done something that we regret. And so we come in with this goat, right? This animal. It's an animal sacrifice. And we're in line. You have to imagine there's hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people who are also, repenting for their sins. This is like old school teshuvah. So I'm standing in line in the hot sun, waiting for my turn to stand before the priest in this public display of repentance, right? It's public confessional. Jews don't go into a little booth and whisper our misgivings. We let it all hang out. So the role of the priest was almost to bully us. It's fascinating what was happening there. And Ted, correct me if you have a different impression. But the role of the priest was that when you came in, these guys were like, they were zavdik, they were butchers. So they're all like big butchers, and you bring in this animal and they say, "Oh, I see you brought a guilt offering. What exactly did you do?" And then you have to tell them in front of everyone what you did. And then they say, "So let me get this straight. So you cheated on your wife with your brother's, friends, wives, have you, and you want this poor animal to die because of your mistake?" And they would make this person feel so bad and publicly that it was not only a deep guilt, which is why many of the Judeo-Christian doctrines are very, very closely tied to guilt, because this was such an imposing practice that the person would feel so guilty that they would literally break down and cry. And the catharsis of that cry mimicked what we just, and go with me on this because this is going to be a stretch, but go with me. It's what we just mentioned a joke does. It's the same thing. You're sitting there in a group of people, right? Someone's telling a joke, and we're all with bated breath wanting to be a part of that cathartic breakthrough, which is the laughter. Whereas here, guilt was the tension, and the breakthrough was crying. And when the priest or the Kohen saw that you were genuinely remorseful and you broke down, and that was your catharsis, your tears, then they took your offering. It was powerful. It was brutal, and it was completely politically incorrect. I mean, that would never fly today. But you can't not say that it wasn't a cathartic experience. It was brutally cathartic. So when Ted mentions, how do we tie this into joy? It's the same release. The priest wants you to get past, or not even get past, it's to peel off that which is caked around the joy, and regret and guilt and remorse are all layers that have to be peeled in order to get to your natural state, which is joy. Does that make sense? All right. See why I needed you, Ted? I need you, brother.
Can I say something?
Rabbi, I was more questioning about the thoughts and the purity of the Kohanim. That's
The purity of the what?
the Kohanim. That's what I didn't get.
Okay, so the Kohen is committed to fixing, either through teshuvah, which we just explained in a very real way. They're committed to your betterment. That's it. The betterment of the Jewish people, or people. Let's just say, when we commit to the betterment, we commit to the betterment of humanity, right? So, in that commitment, it's an uncompromising commitment, and so they cannot look. And this is, of course, metaphoric. They cannot look upon the face of death, because if you're going to commit to the betterment of humanity, you have to believe that everything can be repaired, that everything can be reconciled, that everything can be brought to a greater good. Everything is lahetiv, hakol lahetiv. Everything is towards the good. And so in that fashion, the priest helps to bring everything and everyone towards the good. And because the priest mirrors the functioning of the higher mind, that the higher mind in mochin de gadlut is what we call it, right? In the highest level of thought is the thought that there's nothing that you have said or done or thought that can't be brought to ascension, that can't be brought to some greater good, that has some silver lining. And that belief is directly linked to joy, which is your natural core essential self, and faith. And those two principles are defining principles.
Yeah.
I see someone's finger. Does that mean you want to say something?
Yeah, this is David.
David.
I ask people a lot of times how they come to joy, and they usually say when they see their grandchildren, joy. I feel joy when I can help somebody. I feel joy when somebody helps me. But I think about joy a lot because I know it's inside of me, but it isn't always ready to come out. Maybe because I'm looking for it, it runs away,
I'm glad that you're here tonight. I brought this up because so many of my friends, and your friends too, have been suffering with anxiety. There's just a lot going on in the world right now that really it's causing people who we know and love to have acute mental and emotional breakdowns, and in like chronic emotional instability. And there are people, even people I know who have been monitoring their mental stability are finding themselves really losing it now. And you, as our resident poet, David, you are like the journalist of spirituality, right? And you journal what we all want to hear being said. What I say in 90 minutes or an hour, you say in a few words in poetic form. And so I'm hoping that you'll maybe find a poem in the next 20 minutes. You'll write a little poem that we can have that might encapsulate what we're talking about here. One of which is that joy is not something that you have to search for. So when you say, I want to find joy by doing something, we don't find joy by doing something. We don't find joy by something being done to us. We find joy by peeling off that which is caked around our innate state of being, our natural state, which is always going to be joy. Can you hear me with the printer in the background? Is that all right? You can't hear me anymore? All right, hold on, I'll turn off the printer. Okay.
Rabbi, I think we need to donate you a new printer.
No, printer's
That's
fine.
a noisy printer.
No, it's just that the kids need to print things out. We're printing things out for Purim and everything. So, all right. So let's continue. Ted, yeah.
Yeah, this seems to be a theme tonight that's kind of interesting, and that is sort of an emotional contagion. We're talking about, humor in the beginning, but David makes such a wonderful point about the joy of grandchildren. And the kids are running around playing and they're laughing. There's a natural, joy that kids bear, and it rubs off on us. We experience that with them. And if they fall down and hurt themselves, they cry for 30 seconds or 2 minutes, and then they forget about it and they run off and they're playing again and it's gone. So there's that natural joy that the kids have that is contagious. And then, like you also mentioned, the spirit of death and the contagion of that negative energy. So it seems to be a theme running through a lot of what we're saying tonight, is how much we are community and how our emotional state and mood and whatever, how we affect one another.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Any other comments? That was beautiful, Ted. What else? Anyone else have a comment or question? Ron?
Is it possible that different people reach a state of joy differently? It doesn't have to be identical with everyone. For example, I feel like the tension that you referred to develops in me when I'm not understanding something. And I have a feeling of joy when I gain a new understanding of whatever it may be. And that's an important thing to me in my life.
Understanding begets joy for you.
For me.
That's beautiful. We talked about this on Friday night, that many leaders and historic figures who've suffered with anxiety and depression, they have antidotes that they've like self-medicated with. Winston Churchill, we talked about how he used to write. He did bricklaying, he did painting, and he did writing. He said he wrote to keep the black dog, which in Hebrew can only be equated with marashchora, which is like black bile from the Hippocratic elements of the four humors. And he said this is how he kept the black dog of depression at bay. And he wrote so much, Ron, that he produced more words than Shakespeare and Dickens combined, right? And all the while, he also helped us to to win World War II, the Allied forces. And creativity was Churchill's antidote. And then just a moment ago, I was talking about Norman Cousins. Norman Cousins used humor. So did Abraham Lincoln, which we talked about on Friday night. To essentially to offset the effects of depression. So yes, there are ways that we fabricate joy, and this has to be a tradition, because this is how we remind ourselves of our natural state, that we are innately joyful. Not that we're granted joy, that because you understand something, oh, okay, now I'll be joyful. It's rather that the joy that you feel through Bina, through understanding, is just a reminder and an encouragement to uncover all of that which is blocking your natural joyful state. I'll tell you something. I want to learn something with you. There's this. Let's learn this first. Do you mind if we learn just a few things before we close up for the night with David's poem? Who else wants to read? Not who else. I mean, I love when Sherry reads. Does anyone else besides Sherry want to read? Otherwise, it's going to be Sherry.
I don't want to read. I just want to say something if I could. It's Judy. I just wanted to say that if I think of the word love, it makes me smile and it makes me joyful. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. You are the ambassador of love. Delicious, delicious, Judy. All right, Sherry, I'm going to screen share and you're going to share. Hold on one second. Let's see here. Okay. All right. You can just read my notes. I think this is important. Go ahead. Can we unmute Sherry?
We've talked a few times about Elisha. When King Jehoshaphat needed a prophet, he asked around, asking, are there any prophets around? They told him, yes, there's Elisha. He used to wash the hands of Elijah the prophet, and he's a prophet too. So they called Elisha, and Elisha said, I'm not in the mood. I can't just get in touch with God like picking up a phone. It's not like WhatsApp. And so they asked him, well, what do you need? Elisha said, first of all, I need to not be depressed.
Wait, stop. That's important. So he's saying, okay, I'll be prophetic, but it's not just like, flicking a switch. So they said, what do you need? He said, well, first of all, I need to get out of this funk. So this is what he does. He addresses first, right? He addresses first his depression so that he can be prophetic. So keep going. You read so beautifully, Sherry.
They said, well, you tell us what to do. And he said, well, bring me some musicians.
So this is what he says. This is his famous line. V'hakenagin hamanagin tihi alav yad Hashem. So he says, get me some musicians, right? And when the musicians are playing, upon, the hand of God falls upon him. He says, like, it's like the old adage, when something happens, they say, fetch, the Rebbe says, fetch the violinist. So this is where it comes from. It comes from Elisha saying, if we're really going to get somewhere, if we're really going to unlock the prophetic mind, and what is the prophetic mind, right? What is the prophetic mind? It's the mind that believes in endless possibility, in limitless possibility. If I'm going to unlock the limitless possibility of relationships, of all the components of my life, if I'm going to be my best self, as they say here today, I need a musician. I need to bring in the clowns. What was that song? Bring in the clowns. Where are the clowns? So why is she calling for the clowns? Is that Joan Baez? Who was that? Carly Simon? Joan Baez? Which
Frank
one?
Sinatra.
Judy Collins.
Was it Judy
Judy
Collins?
Collins.
Judy Collins, yes, Judy Collins. So when she says bring in the clowns, she's saying what Alicia's saying. Okay, I'll give you my goods, right? But first, I got to get out of this funk. And that essentially is the invitation to God. For it says here, and I'm going to find this for you so Sherry can read it as well. We'll study this piece as well. Oh, it's right there. Okay. Screen share. Okay. So Gemara says, Ein shchina shor lo mitoch atzvos velo mitoch atzlute velo mitoch schok velo mitoch kalos rosh velo mitoch sicha velo mitoch dvarim betelim ele mitoch davar simcha shel mitzvah shenemar va'ata k'chuli menagen v'haya kinagen hamenagen v'tehi alav yad Hashem. Read this. Is one of my favorite passages. And this comes from the Gemara Shabbos 30b. Here, I'll correct that. Shabbos. Okay, go ahead and read that, Sherry.
Shekhinah does not come to rest upon a person through depression, or through laziness, or through levity, or through cynicism, or through idle chatter or nonsense, only through the joy of some mitzvah.
So that's it. What's mitzvah? It doesn't mean just to do, an act that is ordained by the Torah. It's to be mitzvah, to be connected to God. Anything that connects you to that divine, natural state is going to connect you to your joy. Right. So what's interesting here is that this always bothered me. I don't know if it bothers you. But how many of you have ever experienced depression? Not depression like the crippling depression, but where you felt, a sadness that just came on, melancholy. Everyone and everyone. We're human, right? So if you've experienced melancholy, when you hear something like, God only rests on the joyful heart, it made me feel like, does God abandon me when I'm feeling sad or depressed? So the Shekhinah, it says right there, the Shekhinah can only rest on that which is joyous. And I think that's something for us to explore, because if I were in a state of depression, that would not make me comfortable. Sometimes we feel like we're at the mercy of our depression, and I'm not sure if hearing that God is only going to rest on me if I'm happy, if that's empowerment or disempowerment. And I wanted to hear this idea flushed through your eyes. Make no mistake, friends, God is always with you. But we don't experience God as easily or readily until we transcend the feeling, that chronic feeling. When Alicia says, I've got to snap out of this, I've got to rise above this. We call that in Hebrew, Mesiach Dat. Can you say that with me? Just move your lips. Mesiach Dat. It's the Hesech of Das. It's the Hesech Das. It means that you forget the thought, that you have to force yourself to forget the thought. Now, it's easier said than done, but this is an interesting kind of forgetting. It's that, just as we said in the beginning of the class, that the Kohen, that governing, voice in your head, stands at the doorway to the Mishkan, at the doorway to the temple, which is your mind, and stands porter at the doorway of your thoughts. That is what makes you a sanctuary. That is what makes you a sanctuary. We are all personal sanctuaries. We're all temples, without walls. And we take responsibility for our own condition. And so we even build into the lexicon of our understanding as Jews that God will not be with me in this. You know, if you want to be sad, if you want to, if you have every reason to be sad, be sad. If you lose someone, grieve. If if you stub your toe, cry in pain. If you lost your job, yes, be upset. If you've given up, don't stay there. You can react, but ultimately you have to respond. And the response should always be to rise above that which drags you down. And so when we say hesech das, it means do anything you can within reason. It doesn't mean to artificially, stimulate joy. But to fabricate joy safely and effectively, as David and Ted said, with your grandchildren or your children, or as Norman Cousins said, through watching a funny film or reading a funny book or limerick, as some of you said, to listen to music, to entertain love, to pray, to laugh. I know that many of us are suffering with real anxiety, with real depression, and I know it's not always okay for the rabbi to say, be joyous. Just go and be joyous. It's not as easy as turning on and off a switch. But you can have momentary allowances. You can have momentary breakthroughs. And those breakthroughs they amass creativity, they amass your divine potential. And through that, you'll find a remedy. Because we are not defined by our anxiety. Anxiety is that which cakes upon the essence of the self, which really defines us. And so in the coming weeks, I want to talk about how we can peel away that which is non-essential, that masks the self, which will always be joy. And we'll do this in different ways over the next couple of months. Are you waving because you have something to say or ask? Okay.
A request, yeah.
Get a couple. Yeah, Ted and then Sherry.
Rabbi, you made a reference to the priest and the Mishkan in the head. This is really rich metaphor. That could be a class. That whole concept.
I thought it just was a class, Ted.
that little metaphor just zip.
How far can I stretch one metaphor? I just stretched it an hour. All right, but you and I will talk about how to make that a class. I love when you come here. I want you to be more interruptive, please, because I need more from you. I need a little bit more from you, Ted. Sherry, you had a question, Bobby? Or a comment? Let's end with Sherry's comment.
I think of being happy and you are kind of depressed as going up a staircase. And if you can start to get up one stair and then the next, you start to feel better. And you can do that with your thoughts. But it's not until you start to get to the top of the staircase till you can relate and actually hear God and hear the messages, because when you're so down here, you're not open to it. And so when we're depressed, that's not where God is. God is joy and happiness and love. And it's not that God isn't with us, I think, but it's that we're not able to relate to the level of where God wants us to be.
It's the relatability. It's not that we have been forsaken or forgotten or abandoned. It's that we are no longer in the sphere of relatability. And that's Sherry, that's your Torah for tonight. So you know what we're going to do? we're going to end with Shir Malos. You know why? Because Shir Malos is the song of ascension. It is the song of taking the steps, right? Hamalot, the steps, right? So when we say Shir Malot, let me sing myself into the steps, right? You know how there are 12 steps or 4 steps, or depending on the writer, the author, or the program, they're steps. So for us to have steps is for us to find a way to build upon all of the wonderful exercises that we are engaging to instill joy and faith into our lives. And let's end with that. So,
We have to end with a poem by David, right?
we're gonna end with that, and then we'll do this little thing. Thank you, Peter. David, where are you? Did you write a poem?
David, I just outed you.
Thank you very much. I have 2 poems of joy. They're very short.
Please.
Read them both. Is this a good time?
Yeah, Scott, can you make me co-host also? So I can help to highlight some people as well. And let's highlight David. Go ahead, Bobby.
Joy is born. You are the joy. You are the love. An expression of the love I felt for your mother. So beautiful, something that could be seen, felt, and heard. You are very special. God chose you to be my child. If that is all there is, that would be enough. We are one. And the other poem is Joyful Life. Life is beautiful. Participate without fear. It is not a spectator sport. Create your life. Playing in harmony toward a common purpose. We are one.
Oh man. Oh man. So beautiful. I just saw a post. Thank you, David. Thank you for that. Let's do this every time. Can you write a poem for every class? All right, we'll end. And Peter, it's your job to remind me about the poems. All right, so you're the poet and the Python, and Peter is the one who reminds
the
me.
editor and the nudger.
So Peter Lipnack wrote on Facebook. It's Dr. Pete Lipnack. You're a 13-year-old babysitter for you and Arik. His sister is Allison also. Your mom used to wake me up and I would be in awe of your mom and dad. You and your brother were the first 2 and only 2 to teach me how to pray. Now I pray. After my son died, I had nowhere to turn. Then I fought back to find my higher power. Thank God that I've come to know and lean on. It's beautiful. And Peter Fox said, Send in the Clowns is from Stephen Sondheim. It's not from Judy Collins. It's Stephen, of course it is. Come on, that has to be Stephen Sondheim, right? And
it's an opera. It's an operetta. I saw it at City Opera many years ago. I brought my kids there. Very special. Wonderful story.
And Judy said, I say music is the medicine for the soul. And Stephen Einbinder said, Send in the Clowns. He carries you through the storm. And Esther said, good job. And this is Lorenzo's oil. Oh, that's so nice. All right. So, and the link here, Scott, I don't know if you could take the link off the chat and put it into the Facebook for people to support the UJA rabbis who are going to Ukraine, to the Polish border there, including my friend Rabbi Menachem Creditor. So we'll end with a little Shir Malos, all right? And then I've got to go. Okay? Oh. The Song of Steps. It says, and this is so beautiful, because here, if you read it, it says, Az yimale schok pinu, then our mouths are filled with laughter. This is really our song tonight. Ushaninu Rina, and our tongues are filled with songs of joy. So we'll just do the traditional, like the benching niggin. Shir hamalos b'shuv Adonai et shivat Zion nayinu kechol mim az yimale schok pinol shonenu rina Az yamru ba'goyim Higdil Adonai Lasosim ele Higdil Adonai Lasosim anu Hayinu semechim Shuva Adonai Et shivitenu kafikim b'negev azorim bedima berina yiksoiru haloch yelechu v'cho noisem shechazoro Mo yavo verino, no se yalumo so. So we use the Shem Havayo. I hope that didn't offend everyone, because we feel, sometimes I feel like it's important to make everything a prayer, Don't worry. I ate a little bit before and I'll bench later. I love you all. I'm so thrilled that you're with us. And I want to thank Scott for helping out on Zoom tonight, and for all of you for commenting and your questions and your involvement and your posts and your love. Thank you.